That's right, I'm in Malta, because it's just packed with history and archaeology, and because you can get direct flights from Newcastle, and because it is largely beige. But this is perhaps one of the most disputed specks of land there is on the Earth, because it's smack in the centre of the Mediterranean. It has large, natural, defensible ports, and it's small enough to be easily defended by a small garrison, so it makes it tremendously strategic. The first people we know of living here were the Phoenicians. They weren't actually the first people ever to live here, but they're the first ones we know about in history that we have records of. There were people before those, known simply as the temple builders. I think I'll leave you to guess why they call them that. But the Phoenicians, of course, sided with their natural allies, the Carthaginians, and the Romans didn't think much of that, and so after the last Punic War, this place became Roman. And under the Romans they did reasonably well, but the Roman Empire didn't last forever, and it dissolved into the east and west, and this place generally became part of the Byzantine Empire. But the Byzantines, of course, got conquered by the Arabs here, and they got thrown out, and this place was Arabic for quite some while. And I was expecting, I have to say, to see a lot more Arabic influence here than I've seen. There's not a lot to look at that's Arabic anymore, although the biggest mark that they left on the island is linguistic, because the Maltese language is still very heavily influenced by Arabic. It's got a lot of Arabic noises and a lot of Arabic grammar in it, and one thing they very definitely left this nation is a lot of place names. In fact, almost all the place names in Malta are Arabic. But the Normans came next. They were not French, and they were among the crusaders who decided to throw out the infidel, only actually they didn't really throw them out straight away. In the early days there was quite a lot of tolerance, and most of the Muslims stayed here. But then later crusaders like the Angevins came along, and they were considerably less tolerant of the Muslims, and so eventually they did throw them all out. You could convert to Christianity, that was another of your options, but by and large they left. Now, King Charles of Spain, who became the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, he actually gave this island, that was part of his property at the time, to the Knights of St. John, also known as the Knights Hospitaller, and of course later they became the Knights of Malta, who'd been thrown out of their previous home in Rhodes, because they'd gone to Rhodes, you understand, because they got thrown out of the Holy Land. But they'd been in Rhodes for 200 years, and they'd become quite a powerful naval power. And so by the time they got here, they really knew how to defend a harbour, which was just as well, because in 1565, Suleiman the Magnificent's forces, all 30,000 Turks of them, landed in Marshallloch and made their way here. And it was a very close fought thing, and the Christians under the Knights of St. John proved to be the victors, but only just. But then the rest of Europe went, oh, okay, fair enough, so this is actually an effective bulwark against the rise of Islam, and so they poured money into this place, and it became stupendously wealthy. I mean, just quite mind-bogglingly wealthy, frankly. But it didn't end there, because the French then had a go. In 1798, Napoleon landed here. The revolution had happened in France, and he wanted to bring the benefits of that revolution to everyone. That is to say, he just wanted to conquer everyone in all directions, really. On his way to Egypt, he invaded here and conquered the place pretty much without a fight. And he spent 6 days looting the place, and then left 4,000 men here to garrison the place. And they managed to annoy the locals so much by, for instance, auctioning off all the property of the knights, that the Medina Rebellion happened, and they holed up the French forces in the fort of Valletta, and then asked the British to deal with them. See, the British had a tremendously powerful navy and were able to blockade the place, and after a while, in 1800, the French eventually surrendered. And then the British found themselves in control of the island, which wasn't actually the plan at all, and they didn't at first really know what to do with it. But then they realized that this is tremendously strategically important. It was very handy, for instance, when they invaded the Crimea in the Crimean War. And of course, when the Suez Canal got going, again, this place became even more strategic. So, imagine, for instance, what would happen when World War II breaks out. Yes, the Italian fascists declared war, and the next day the bombs started falling on Malta. 6 artillerymen, I think, were killed by the very first attack. And then the Maltese found themselves on the British side, which probably looked a pretty bad place to be for quite some while, because the British for the first few years of the war were losing really quite badly. In fact, until El Alamein, they really didn't have any victory to boast of. So the Maltese had to put up with an awful lot, and because they put up with quite so much, King George gave them the George Cross. Yes, that's right, every single one of them got the George Cross, and now you'll find that George Cross in the corner of the flag. But after World War II, which the Allies won, by the way, the British started getting rid of their empire. In fact, it's the only empire ever to have broken up without a war. And the Maltese became independent, and for a while they were part of the Commonwealth and had the Queen. But would you believe it, after a while they became a republic and got rid of the Queen. I don't quite understand that move, but never mind. They've still got the proper sort of electrical plug, and that's what matters.
Instead of the various foreign, feeble, unfused, 2-pin, unsafe, annoying plugs, you've got good, proper, British, solid, 3-pin, earth-fused plugs that don't fall out. Seriously, rest of the world, wake up. These are better plugs.
Lindybeige!